Hi, sorry about that. It's what happens when you're trying to multitask on different chats. Um, so we are going to be starting the talk now. If people want to start filing down. All right. So while we're just having some of the crowd file down, it's actually a much nicer day than the weather forecast predicted. Welcome to United Astronomy Clubs of New Jersey. Uh, we're once again back on site with our program, which in Jenny Jump State Forest at the observatory here. Uh, in addition, we are live streaming this onto YouTube and Twitch, and finally got the chats working together now, so I can see all of you, and you guys can see all of each other. Right, so a couple things for everyone. You can check us out on our website, uacnj.org. That's where you'll find information about all of our scheduled talks for the year, as well as all about our telescopes and member clubs that you can find there. You can also check us out on our social media pages. We have Facebook, Twitter, Discord, Instagram. I think that covers most of them. And we are an entirely volunteer and nonprofit organization. So everything you see here, every improvement, has been brought to you by donations of our volunteers' time, as well as donations from you guys who have been coming here either on site and watching us online. So tonight's presentation is What's Up in the July Sky, which is normally presented by Lonny. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it here, so we have the presenter, not Lonny. And by not Lonny, I mean Paul. So a little bit about Lonny, who has made this presentation. He has been giving talks at UACNJ since it opened. He is the only member of the International Association of Astronomy. Why can't I pronounce that word? I pronounce it almost weekly. International Association of Astronomical Artists to specialize in virtual reality planets, some of which appear in his ebook, which usually he shamelessly promotes later. All right, so I see that since a lot of you have filed down now, for our in-person crowd, a couple of notes. If you do need to use the bathroom, we have the porta potty to my right, your left. After the presentation, because I am monitoring chat online and whatnot, I'll be over in our little museum and gift shop area, which you can check out all of the proceeds for that. Do go to keep improving our presentation and outreach, as well as keeping up and paying our bills here. All right, so for as far as when we go to leave, we do use our headlights because we don't like getting run over. It hurts. I do not suggest it. That being said, if you have any flashlights that you want to use while wandering around, because it will get dark later, we will keep those pointed towards the ground because we don't like unnecessarily blinding other people. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to Paul, and he's going to get going with our presentation.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Am I coming over on the... when I'm talking, I can't hear whether I'm coming over on the speaker or not. Am I doing that? Thank you. All right. So we'll get off this. Kim introduced us to the this introductory screen here. And, of course, what's up in the July sky would normally fill this time slot. But as Kim mentioned, Lonny is unable to join us tonight. So you have somebody else up here. As Kim referred to, I am not Lonny. I'm Paul, but you can refer to me as Evil Lonny if you would prefer. And there's a lot of young people in the crowd who probably doesn't understand this picture, but that's Evil Spock. All right, so July events. Lonny takes this time every month to go over what you might find in that month's sky. So let's begin that in earnest here. First, we have a full supermoon on the 13th. On the 28th is the new moon. That's when we can't see the moon in the sky at all. We have the Delta Aquariids meteor shower. And we have a test flight from relativity space. All right, let's talk a little bit about the supermoon. First of all, this website here shows that if you see in the media nowadays a lot, they'll talk about supermoons a lot, and they'll talk about a lot about the names of the moons. Why are we interested in what other cultures may or may not call the moon? This, as you can see on the screen there, is a website that gives the various names that various Native American cultures had for various moons. Why is that interesting? Why is that historically interesting? Why is that interesting as people who may be more interested in the science aspect of it? Any ideas? Anyone want to venture a guess? Yes. Wow, I did not expect a right-on-the-nose answer, but that is in fact a right-on-the-nose answer. Historically, our calendars, as for most of our civilization, you're aware that we are currently on a modified modern calendar currently, and it's very accurate as opposed to how things actually move in the sky. And so that calendar, it would most of us don't think about it, but when I want to plant for things to come out on a certain date, I know exactly what date to plant them on. But of course, historically, our calendars were not that accurate at all, and we could not make that prediction. If I wanted to have stuff by the time the weather got cold, man, I had to really know when to plant it still, and my calendar wasn't helping me. So how would I do it? I would, of course, do it on these moon cycles or star cycles. That's the reason why we had such things. So the fact, historically, that we have cultural references to various moons or various aspects in the sky, various things in the sky, such as the dog star and other things, kept us honest or kept us aware of the passage of time in an accurate sense. So, and also culturally significant, right? We want to be aware of various people and how they did things, and so also culturally significant. And then finally, let's talk scientifically about why we want to do such things. Can anyone give me a relatively recent example where the science community had a really good reason for doing something and then forgot about its historical and cultural significance completely? Pluto. Who said? Someone said Pluto? Of course, Pluto, right? We want to remember Pluto is a planet in everyone's heart, or in many people's heart. It is a dwarf planet, and that's what the problem is, right? We have the scientific reality, which is on many of these trans-Newtonian objects, such as Pluto. There are a lot of them, and they all fit a similar definition. So very good. Pluto is a dwarf planet currently. However, for people my age, around my age, Pluto was a very important discovery of another planet that we were still celebrating. And it has cultural significance, especially the United States. I think it was the first planet discovered by someone from the United States. So it has this cultural significance too, that you would be that ignoring, you ignore to your detriment. So therefore, scientists even, although they have a really good reason why to consider Pluto is not a planet, really should take a little bit the cultural significance into their thinking. So this is why that you might want to check out this particular website and maybe be interested in what Native Americans called the various moons. So what are some examples of the Native American names? There's the buffalo moon, the hot sun. the Hay Moon, and of course there were various Native American peoples, so therefore various names, and you can check them all on that website. Other moon names from the Farmer's Almanac: the Buck Moon, the Elk Moon, the Summer Moon, and the Thunder Moon. All right, the supermoon in July. Okay, they're coming up one at a time here. So astronomer Fred Espenek, Mr. Eclipse. I hope I got his real name pronounced correctly, but Mr. Eclipse is easy enough to pronounce. So Mr. Eclipse put together some of this data here that Lonny is referencing. The average moon distance is 238,900 miles. On June 14th, it'll be 222,238 miles. And or it was. And on July 13th, it'll be 222 and 89 miles from the Earth. So that's closer. So what happens when the moon is closer? It appears larger to us. And that's actually a pretty big spread. There are some websites that will show the variation of the moon in its apogee and its perigee, and it's actually a relatively far big extreme between the 2 points in its orbit. So some other information about that moon. The moon size is about 29.43 arc minutes in the sky when it is at apogee, and it is 33.5 arc minutes at perigee. And remember that there are 60 arc minutes in a degree, so it's averaging around about a half a degree in the sky at a time, and varies slightly above and below that amount depending upon how far away the moon is. And it's about a 14% increase or decrease in its apparent diameter as measured as an angle in the sky. Right now, we're not at none of those dates, right? Today's the 2nd, and we're slightly above 400,000 kilometers the moon is away from us. All right, let's talk about some of the meteor showers. All right, first of all, I'll get into that actually in the next slide now that I think about it. Let's talk about the Alpha Beta Perseids. That's from Comet Swift-Tuttle. It's a famous comet. And this meteor shower is very fast. There's the Alpha Capricornids from the 15th of July to the 10th of August. It's from asteroid 22X12, now called 169P NEAT. There's an hourly rate of about 5, and yellow, brilliant, and slow. Just so you know that where that rate is at, some of the more spectacular meteor showers will have hundreds of hundreds of meteors per minute. So 5 is very modest, to say the least. The Delta Aquariids they have a suspected candidate of Comet 96P, Machholz, and it's at its zenith, its hourly rate will be about 16. So slightly better, but still nothing to write home about as far as a meteor shower goes. All right, let's talk a little bit about what we mean when we name these meteor showers and how that should modify your expectation of what you see in the sky. these are the, when they name it, they're telling you where to find it in the sky. And when I say it, I mean the radiant of the meteor shower. The meteor can come across the sky in 360 degrees of directions. However, they'll appear to be coming from this radiant. And so let me help you put this a little bit more in perspective. If you think about a shotgun and you are a tiny, tiny person looking down an enormous barrel of a shotgun, okay, now you're getting the idea of a radiant. That shot is coming out at you, and it could go above your head or below your feet or to one side or the other, and that is the radiant aspect of the of a meteor shower. So the radiant would be looking right down the center, and the actual appearance of the meteors could be over your head, down below your feet, to either side, looking like they're coming from the center of that shotgun. Does that kind of make sense? You can use a garden hose if you want to be a little less violent than shotgun, but shotgun sort of kind of gets the point across, I think, really well. All right, so that's what a radiant is. All right, so you need 3 very technical pieces of equipment in order to enjoy a meteor shower. Ready? You need your eyes. Very important. You need a comfortable chair so you can look up at the sky. And bug spray would be helpful this time of year. And to be a little bit more serious, people ask all the times what the best way to look at a meteor shower is. And as somebody who looks through a telescope on a frequent basis, somebody who even takes, I'm breaking into EAA myself at this point, so I even take pretty pictures. Not as pretty as a lot of real serious astrophotographers do, but still, I'd love to take out that technical stuff and get involved with it. And I'm telling you, don't do any of that stuff. Don't do telescopes, maybe binoculars, but I would even avoid that. The wonder and the awesomeness of seeing these in the sky is enjoying it streaking across the whole sky, which you can best appreciate with your eyes. Okay, so a little silly with those 3 very technical things, but really gets to the heart of the matter at the same time. You want to enjoy this, the whole scope of the spectacle, if you are looking at a meteor shower. All right, so we have had some questions up here about the planets and when we can see them. And the answer is not while we're open here right now, okay, unfortunately. Maybe later in the year we'll be able to. We had people arguing with us, actually, when they were here. And, you know, some of that sometimes could be due to misreporting from some of the media and things like that. So I don't blame anyone for their expectations that were not correct necessarily. But unfortunately, the planets are all up in the morning, and here's the list. All right, so Mercury is up at 4:27 a.m. and Venus rises at 3:37 a.m. Mars at 1:28 p.m. We're getting closer to the realm of possibility, aren't we? At least for most people. Jupiter is up at 12:36, so we'll be seeing Jupiter relatively soon on this side of the nighttime hours. Saturn at 2:13 a.m. Uranus at 2:13 a.m. Neptune at 12:07, and Pluto at 9:37 p.m. So Pluto would actually technically be visible tonight, but unfortunately, and we talked about Pluto and how important it is historically, but it's actually a pretty uninteresting target in the sense that it's not particularly bright. We won't be able to see any detail in a telescope, etc. So we could tell you that that's Pluto, and then you'd be like, looks like a star. And you'd be right. It does look like a star from where we're sitting in the telescope, if you can even see it. I think it's relatively dim too. Uranus and Neptune, which are also pretty far out there, are we wouldn't be able to see from here with our telescopes or any typical amateur telescope much in the way of detail. However, you can resolve their disk a little bit, and what that means is that if you look at it with your naked eye and you could see it, it would look like a point of light, like a star. But you put a telescope on it, it would get fatter in the telescope, and that is called resolving the disk. And you can tell at that point that it is not a star that you're looking at. Plus, they are interesting from a color perspective, and it's just an interesting challenge to find in the sky because they move around. And so, if you're star hopping and not cheating using a computer scope, it's just an interesting target to. It's not really cheating, but I'll call it cheating. They're interesting to find, and it's kind of an ooh-ah moment when you yourself are doing the telescope driving. So that's a long way of saying you won't be able to see them here tonight. So I apologize for that. Lonny wanted to gets a lot of his information from this event calendar. I don't know necessarily his association with this calendar. He might be associated with it. I'm unaware of it if he is, but however, this slide's there, so here it is. Stellarium.org. I will start up Stellarium and see whether I can reverse my way into putting it on that screen there and show you a little bit about what Stellarium can do for us. But it is I think it is, you can get it for free on your phone. I think they ask for a donation for a computer install or at least a certain level of access. It's not expensive at all. Stellarium is a playground, an interactive map, if you will, of the night sky. Very standard. You can use it to drive your go-to mounts and things like that. So a very popular alternative. Celestia, real-time 3D visualization of space. And as you heard from Kim's introduction, Lonny is heavy into these projects. So probably very involved in this. And also, is his name up there? I don't see his name up there. However, Lonny does things like taking 2D images of planetary terrain or planetary surfaces and mapping it onto 3D models of the planet. So technical work, very technical, but also artistic work associated with that. Requires a little bit of both artistic and scientific judgment, and he does an extraordinary job at doing that, and that stuff is available on his website. This is where I'm supposed to do show you thank you, Stellarium, but I will do that after the presentation. It's going to require me to fumble around a little bit, so I will hopefully do that quick, but after the presentation. And wanted the last thing on Lonny's list there was Relativity Space is doing a test fire in July. They are an aerospace manufacturing company in Los Angeles, California, and they were founded by Tim Ellis and Jordan Noon, maybe is how that's pronounced. They're developing manufacturing technologies, launch vehicles, and rocket engines for commercial orbital launch services. So another effort for NASA and the United States to push things for space into the private sector as opposed to it being completely controlled by NASA. So excellent, I think, as far as progress goes. I did look up relativity space, and a lot of their marketing material featured printed manufacturing. So they 3D print their pieces for their launch vehicles. So that's interesting, right? That we are now using that manufacturing technology to go into space, and it makes sense. These are very complex parts, and using a technology that helps us do that with less joints, less places of failure makes sense to use this. I don't know that they're exclusive at all in any way, shape, or form in using 3D printing technology to make complex parts, even in the aerospace industry. But they certainly are, proud of their efforts in this area. The launch sites are CCSFS LC-16, Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida, and the VSFB Building 330 in Vandenberg Space Force Base, Santa Barbara County, California. So I of course heard about Space Force the same time everyone else did, and I don't know about you, but I was a little skeptical. The name itself just begs, what the heck is this thing? So I wanted to be as fair as I could to the Space Force, and did just a smidge of looking into, what projects are they working on, are they being successful at, etc. And so what they do have 8 approved missions, and they include a GPS satellite. They include some military and government communication satellites being launched. They have a military weather satellite that is scheduled. They have missile defense satellites that are also scheduled. And then finally, of course, as you would imagine from an agency that probably deals with some secret stuff, they have some classified missions that have been approved also. So to give Space Force its fair shake, there is actually some teeth to the agency, and it's doing some work. So excellent for that. All right, history in July. In 1958, July 28th, President Eisenhower signed into law NASA. So pretty auspicious, right? So that's excellent. That's a good date to know about in July. Well, also not in any way, shape, or form less auspicious, we have the birthday of John Glenn, the first American to orbit the Earth, and a politician born in Cambridge, Ohio, on July 18th in 1921. So 2 pretty important space dates in July. All right, so let's review what we went over today, with me not forgetting that I'm supposed to show you stellarium. We have the full moon, and we want to remember a little bit about cultural significance of the full moon, and the fact, what a supermoon actually means, but also culturally what what those things, what the knowing of astronomy did for us as people. The 28th, we have the new moon, which is when the moon is in shadow. We have the Delta Aquariids at the end of the month. And we have a relativity space doing its Terran 1 test flight. Okay, so here's some references for Lonny. Lonny references us very kindly. Thank you, Lonny. The magazines of Sky and Telescope and Astronomy. and programs and applications: Stellarium, Stellarium Web, Stellarium Mobile Free, and Celestia Space. This is Lonny shamelessly plugging himself, so I will shamelessly plug for Lonny that he has I believe that is a video out, Space History Mysteries Solved, and Mars at Your Fingertips VR, two things that you can go to Astronomy in Motion and check out for yourself. As I said, Lonny does some very interesting work with mapping 2D stuff onto 3D models, so very cool. Space.com, Lonny Buinis, there's his email address, and again his website, astronomyinmotion.com. And thank you for visiting UAC&J, and I'm not ending. I still have to do Stellarium, but we'll leave that slide up while I try to get Stellarium over on the other screen intelligently. And I've already lost the cursor. There it is. All right, I got it back here. All right, so I'm going to start Stellarium up here. All right. So I have to be able to put it in the window mode, and unfortunately I did not look how to do that real quick. I wish I had thought about it beforehand. If you bear with me for 30 seconds, I'll give it 30 seconds more of effort, and then I'll cut you loose if I can't figure it out.
Hey, Chris, do you know how to operate Stellarium? Or Jeff? Actually, Jeff might know better.
Jeff might be all the way over there, though. Unfortunately, I have Stellarium here on my and having difficulty minimizing it to be able to push it over to the other screen. The other thing I could do is maybe just change screens. Let me see if I can do that. You have problems with the computer user. The program's working perfectly. No, I can't even get it to minimize to be able to drag it anywhere. Yeah, why don't I you want me to take questions?
So while I try and take over this, sorry, I've never used this program before. Oh, it's on that screen. How about let's take a question. One of our online question was regarding the supermoon. Do you believe in the full moon crazies? And if you know what that is, what realistically could cause such a phenomena?
Well, that's actually an interesting question, right? There's something called the placebo effect, where a perceived something that is perceived as having an effect might actually have a statistically noticeable effect on a population, in the sense that the perception is what ends up mattering and influencing rather than the physical reality of the thing. So I would have to say that that's the explanation. If there is such a statistic, first of all, the question's valid. Is there an actual statistical difference? I think some people have quoted actual police log information saying that there is a noticeable statistical difference, but I would have to say that it has something to do with something like the placebo effect more than it has to do with anything physically different. If you saw those numbers, we're varying around 300,000 miles away from the moon at any time, and it doesn't vary that much that I would say that the moon has any sort of effect on our anatomy in that sense. So I would have to put it down to a psychological effect. Certainly does look a little weird when you walk outside at 12 o'clock at night and it's light enough out for you to see, doesn't it? So that in itself is a interesting psychological effect. Maybe it has a little bit more effect on some other people. So good question. Thank you.
Right. So I actually got it to do the thing, but it's only visible on this side. So what you want to show them?
So if we go down to bring the cursor down. And Kim is learning while we're doing this.
Just to show you how easy it is to use.
Yeah, just how easy it is to use. You see it's showing daylight, right? Because let's see if we can change the location. Actually go to the left here and bring up the left menu by keep going, all the way to the left. There you go. And go up to that starburst there, all the way at the top. Hit that. And here, let's change from the home. That would be my home. Let's change that to type in there where it's. I type in because you don't have access to that. Let's see if we can bring up London, which we would be sure that it is in the dark. And did it bring up London? Oh my gosh, we're not having any success today at all with running.
Try searching again and I'll click it. Just type in the words. Okay, stop. And we're going, wow, there's a lot of Londons.
How about London in
Northern Europe?
Yes, that's it. There you go. So here, you notice that it reflected the actual time where you can see it. So this, it would make sense that you need to enter your current data, where you are, what elevation you are at currently, in order to use any planetarium type software, because your night view is going to be dependent on where you are on the planet at the time. All right, so this actually gets to the point where there are differences in how it will drive your scope. I am a half an hour away from here, yet it'll drive my scope differently because I have different location information based on where I am at the planet. And that makes sense, right? So one thing you have to know if you're using planetarium software intelligently is that you do need to enter your correct location into the software. As you can see, it made a difference from going from the night to day, like we're still experiencing day right now. Okay? So that's one thing. The other thing, if you could go over, let's leave it on London, and let's go over to here. And let's go to the right. What does it say? Stay on that right in that general area. Constellation labels. Go back one. Constellation lines. I recommend the constellation lines because you can draw these lines in your mind and they make sense, right? So especially if you're learning the sky, draw these constellation lines. And this is what I definitely don't recommend you do. All right, because the artwork is complete fantasy. A lot of these objects don't look anything like the stars in the sky and the lines you can draw with them. I mean, Orion you can see pretty well. I can see Leo as a lion. Some people see it as a backwards question mark. I would avoid the art. I would put it on for curiosity and say, man, they really don't look like that, do they? And then turn it back off again. All right, so that's the other thing I would use with constellation. And the other thing I would like to see is, well, let's just leave that up here and see some of these symbols on here. You could see the various symbols. You can see a circle with a cross in it right here. Circle with a cross in it. Does anyone know what symbol that is? That's for a globular cluster. This symbol here, which is sort of a circle with dots around it, that's an open cluster. This symbol right here, the green, yep, with a square, that's a nebula. So these symbols, just learn like you would learn on a what the interstate symbol is on a map. Learn these symbols on on the planetarium software, and it'll tell you just at a glance what objects you're looking at.
I really like the patchy unnamed cloud.
The patchy unnamed cloud. That's somebody who filled in some information maybe incompletely, because we do have large, extensive catalogs, the Messier catalog, the NGC catalog, IC catalog, whole bunch of others that we have the names for a lot of things in the sky. That isn't to say there isn't undiscovered stuff out there, but a cloud that big in the sky, we do have probably have a name for. So that's kind of what I wanted to show you as far as Stellarium goes, especially as beginners just starting up the program for the first time. Turn off the artwork. Your location does matter, and get to know the symbols. And I think that's a good start for using the program.
Another note that I know Lonnie usually says, because everything kind of rises in the east and sets in the west, a lot of times you're going to want to start your night what's already setting. So if there was something you wanted to see, check it out before it goes down before the horizon. And as you can see, I'm kind of scooting my way across the sky. It's just click and drag, and then you can slowly work your way all the way back over to the east. And normally you don't the real world doesn't have lovely labels of northeast, west, south, but actually that would actually be kind of useful here, so we might want to set that up at some time.
Yeah, and your brain cheats too. It's hard to just take a pattern in the sky like that, unreferenced to the rest of your surroundings, which often you notice things more at eye level than you do it up. It's hard just to take pattern recognition. You could go out at your home and find stuff very easily, and then go out to a remote site somewhere you've never been before and try to find the same things in the sky and start scratching your head, even though you know them pretty well. And that's because your brain cheats a little bit. Your brain will know that this time of year it's typically over that tree over there, and you might not even be consciously thinking of that, but your brain's doing it anyway. And so it'll fool you a little bit if you go to another location, that it's a little bit harder just that straight let's call it grunt pattern recognition. Your brain needs a little bit of help sometimes. So again, these programs help with that type of thing. I think we owe the crowd some questions.
Yep. So was that the end of your presentation?
That's the end of my presentation. I think everyone's had enough.
So now's when we normally have our Q&A session. A couple things, since I know a couple of you got here in the middle of the presentation, and I know some of you probably want to get right out and look at scopes. Again, if you're here, if you need the restroom, it is the porta potty to my right, your left. We do have a little museum area and sales desk to my left, your right. All the proceeds go to keeping our bills paid and allows us to offer the free public programs and the upgrades that you see. So when we also are leaving, when it gets dark, we are using our headlights. We don't like getting run over. We don't want to see anyone get run over. It's not a great situation to be in, so we're going to avoid that. That being said, when we use our flashlights, we will keep them pointed towards the ground, because we don't need to unnecessarily blind people if we don't have do. Okay, and with that, we're going to get into the Q&A session. I'm just going to ask for people here. When you raise your hand for a question, kind of keep it up because there's a lot of you and I kind of lose you in the crowd on my way there while trying to pay attention so I don't step on anyone. Also, wait for your question for me to hand you the microphone so that our online audience can also hear, because chances are if you have that question, they also have a similar question or might have a question bouncing off of that. So, who wants to have the first question? Oh, there we go.
So what would we see tonight? Would that be like the Big Dipper, the Little Dipper, Cassiopeia, which is the big W in the sky? Would we see Orion's
So
belt?
far, you're on a roll. You're naming all things we will see tonight.
All right.
That being said, take a look at the sky. It's patchy at best, so whether we actually will see it or not, stay tuned. But those things are definitely behind the clouds if we don't get to see them tonight. So Cassiopeia will come up a little bit later over the tree line, but it is up in the sky now. Certainly, the summer triangle is very prominent, and that includes Vega, Deneb, and Altair, and all their Lyra. I forget Altair, and then Cygnus. So those associated constellations. Plus, the Big Dipper is very high in the sky in the beginning, and is setting a little bit towards the end of the night. What deep sky objects are associated with them? At this time of year, there are a lot of galaxies up and a lot of globular clusters. There's other stuff too. The Ring Nebula and the Dumbbell Nebula come to mind, are very exciting objects to see in the sky this time of year too. So cool stuff, and hopefully the clouds will clear out enough that we actually get a chance to see them. Remember, we have to see through the haze, and especially the dimmer objects. It's sometimes difficult to make them out through any haze.
Right. Also, if you actually want to go back to UACNJ location on there, there's always that group of core constellations that never rise or set. They kind of just circle around the sky. Those are a great thing to get to know first. Your Big Dipper is one of them, because then you can go star hopping. So, hey, I know where the Big Dipper is, which means I can follow that arc to Arcturus. I then can speed to Spica over to the next constellation. It also means I can find the North Star, Polaris. So star hopping is the way to go, and you can play around with programs like Stellarium or Celestia to see then what seasonally will be up. I know right now we have Scorpius in the sky. Later in the season, we will have Orion up during this time of night.
So I'm failing again to bring it up onto the screen. If you want to come up afterwards, I can show you right on my computer.
Right. So we have another online question, and it's, what is your favorite meteor shower?
What is my favorite meteor shower? My favorite meteor shower, I don't have a specific one, but the weather is variable enough here in New Jersey that whatever meteor shower is happening, where I have a clear sky and those two things align, that's my favorite meteor shower, because it doesn't happen as frequently as you would like here in New Jersey. If we were living in Arizona, maybe I would have a specific favorite one, because you get a lot more days of having clear skies. Here, it's whatever works that particular at that particular time and date.
Right. Was there another question from our in-person audience? Bueller. Oh, there we go.
I want to know again about what is super moon.
What is the blood moon?
No, super.
What is the supermoon? So the supermoon means that the moon appears large. Not only is it a full moon, but the moon is closer to us than normal, and it will appear larger. Now they make you think that it's like 2 times larger, but as we went over, the distance to the moon does not vary a, a lot. I mean, it varies significantly, and we can see a difference, but the difference from smallest to largest is about 14% in the size, the apparent size of the diameter of the moon. So you might notice a difference, but it's really, although they call it a supermoon, it's we can notice it, but really not that impressive moon instead. So I would say you can notice a difference, and it is a supermoon, but don't expect a huge difference in the size of the moon.
Right. I'm just putting out a last call for any last minute questions with our online audience. Was there any other questions from our audience here in person? Anyone? Right. So I want to thank you all again for coming out. Well, I'm just giving it a couple seconds because there is a stream delay for our online audience to hear what I'm saying. Like I said, do check us out on our website, uacnj.org. That's where you'll find a list of all our future talks and any special events that we might be doing. Speaking of special events, we did actually have a question earlier that I forgot about, and that was, sorry, I had it up and then I scrolled away. When is UACNJ having an event? It feels like forever since we had a get together. And I put out the answer that unfortunately we are, or fortunately, it's a little bit of both. We are a volunteer-based organization, so a lot of our events you see are based on not only if we have the volunteers available to go do the outreach or make an event on the day of an event, but also a lot of planning goes in behind the scenes to having an event such as we used to have our family field day or an astronomy day. So if you're local to us and you're part of an astronomy club, I do suggest joining them. Chances are they need help. And once you have an astronomy club, you can also then, if you want and you're here all the time, feel free to join our organization. And at that point, you can help us make these events. We're always looking for help with people who want to give talks and presentations or do something simple like I often volunteer my time to help run the little museum area and sales desk area. We have volunteers who help park everyone at night. And unfortunately, that is part of why we haven't, besides the obvious of we could not hold large events during the peak of COVID, we are still limited by our volunteer presence and what a volunteer can give for their time.
If I may, I'm in a unique position. I happen to be the club's president currently, so I do have a little bit of perspective on it. We have started outreach again where we weren't doing it before, and I have had the opportunity of going to some events locally, and volunteerism just seems to be down across the board. And so even though we've begun outreach and we've begun accepting small groups here and going out and doing some events, in general, we don't feel that we're quite up to speed on being able to fill a reliable staff here on a specific planned event. So the good news is that we are recovering. The bad news is a little bit slower than we had hoped it would be. But I envision us being able to field such events in the near future. So stay tuned on that.
Right. And with that, I want to wish you all a good night. And if you happen to have any questions, go back onto onto our videos on YouTube. We keep them all stored there, and you can comment those and like and subscribe there, because I do review them periodically for any comments and whatnot, and I can hopefully get you the answers there. And if you don't want to ask them there, you can also email us. Like I said, you can look up our contact information through our website. So everyone, have a good night.